You ever walk into a room you're not supposed to, just chasing some random hunch, and what you find turns your whole life upside down? Yeah, that happened to me. Let me back up a sec. It was a Tuesday night, the kind when the city outside just hums with that low, lonely hotel energy, and there I was, clipboard in hand, badge clipped to my chest, pretending to care about pipe insulation in the guts of the building. Not CEO tonight, just Isaac, one more maintenance guy in a sea of people who don't even bother to look you in the eye. Anyway, I'm trudging down this B2 corridor, lights flickering overhead, nothing but the smell of bleach and old rags to keep me company, when I hear Ida's voice, so soft and shaky, I almost miss it. Please do not open that door. Muffled, desperate, not really a request, more like a prayer. Of course, I open the door. That's who Ami got that stubborn, can't leave it alone streak, you know? The hinges groan, and out she bleeds a woman in a wrinkled janitor's uniform. Blonde hair sticking out in all directions. Face pale, sweat beading her forehead. She just collapses into my arms like her body gave up hours ago, but her mind's been holding on for dear life. She's light, almost weightless, but the fear in her eyes is heavy enough to knock the wind right out of me. Please, she whispers, barely holding on. Please don't fire me. And right there in that cold, blinking hallway, I'm not Isaac Carter, CEO, interim, just a guy holding someone who's run out of places to fall. She keeps apologizing, hands shaking, voice cracking, so scared to lose the only thing she's got left. I get her to the employee restroom, tuck her onto a narrow cot, cover her up with a scratchy blanket, and just watch her for a second. She doesn't even know I'm the boss. I don't even know who I am, standing there in borrowed coveralls, trying to remember when compassion started feeling so rare. Her name's Angela. She finally tells me that. Hours later, after the tea I force into her hand stops trembling. She's worked here almost 3 months, night shifts, cleaning bathrooms, kitchens, anywhere no one else wants to go. Her story's simple too simple, in that way where you know the truth's hiding under the surface, sharp as glass. She says she's just tired. Yeah, you bet. You ever meet someone who moves like every step matters? That's Angela. She wipes tables like she's polishing memories, lines up chairs with this weird, gentle focus, never rushes, never complains. There's a dignity to the way she works, the way she helps an old man with his wheelchair, wraps a scarf around his shoulders, smiles, calls him someone who's been loved his whole life. It knocks me sideways, seeing all that tenderness in someone nobody else seems to notice. But something's off. Angela disappears every night after her shift, not out the front door, but down some dark hallway, always with a blanket or a bag clutched to her chest. I start staying late, catching glimpses of her slipping into the old supply closet, sometimes clutching a photo frame, sometimes nothing at all. And one night, when the world's asleep, I peek through a crack in the door and see her laying towels down like a bed, curling up small as she can get, holding that photo like it's the only thing keeping her on this side of the world. Sometimes the loudest cries are the ones nobody ever hears. It takes a while, but she opens up, little by little one night on the back stairwell, her knees pulled to her chest, voice echoing off concrete walls. She tells me about medical school, full scholarship, top of her class, all the dreams people like us are taught to chase. Then her mom got sick, cancer, stage 4, fast and mean. She lost her scholarship, lost her place, lost everything except her brother Dylan, who can't speak and needs more help than the world's willing to give. So she took this job, told herself it was temporary. That's how it always starts, right? There's this twist, though one that hits me out of nowhere. Angela, with nothing left, keeps her old student ID tucked in a battered wallet, not because she thinks she'll get back there, but to remind herself she was once someone who believed she could. I don't steal. I don't lie. I just try to stay invisible, she says, and it hurts to hear because I realize how many people I walk past every day, never really seeing them. We start meeting every night, me with tea, her with sandwiches, talking about nothing and everything. She corrects the way I clean windows, vertical, not circular, who knew? Laughs for the first time in months, and for a while, I forget why I'm really here. But underneath it all, I notice how tired she is, the limp in her step, the way her shoes are falling apart. So, quietly, I leave her a new pair in the cabinet, a note tucked inside. Someone like you shouldn't be walking through life in pain. She cries, tells me she stopped doing that a long time ago, but there it is, proof that sometimes all people need is to be seen. And just when you think things are getting better, the real world crashes in. Angela caught sleeping in the supply closet, supervisors circling like vultures, ready to fire her for company policy. I step in, still wearing my disguise, but this time I peel it off, literally and figuratively drop the badge, tell them who I really am. You will not fire her. She is not the problem. She is the reason this place still has a soul. It's the kind of moment you see in movies, but it's messy, raw, real. Angela doesn't thank me. Instead, she turns, pain written all over her face. You lied to me, she says, not yelling, just broken. And she walks away, leaving me standing there, the mask in my hand, realizing that honesty can shatter trust as fast as any lie. She goes back to her brother, to that tiny room where hope's always out of reach, but then something changes. She takes Dylan to an assessment at a fancy therapy center. Turns out, everything's already paid for, courtesy of a friend who's been watching from the shadows. There's a note, new shoes for Dylan. And for the first time, Angela lets herself believe that maybe, just maybe, good things aren't always a trap. She doesn't call, doesn't text, just leaves a canvas bag outside my office, her old shoes, a homemade lunch, and a note. I learned how to walk alone. But if you're still standing there, I'd like to try again. On these feet with you. That's it. Nothing flowery, just the kind of honest that breaks you open. That night, she comes back not to beg, not to explain, just to stand in the place where it all started. The old supply closet's transformed photos, books, a plaque that says, "The closet for those who dared to continue." I tell her I never helped her out of pity. She tells me I gave her back her brother's laughter, gave her back herself. And right there, without any speeches or promises, we decide to stay two people who've seen the worst of the world, choosing to believe in something better. Angela goes back to school, tuition covered, becomes an advisor, her story whispered from one struggling kid to another. Dylan thrives, paints his first portrait. Together, we launch a project for students like her, shelter, support, hope for the invisible ones. One spring morning, she stands in front of her first pediatric class, badge catching sunlight, voice steady. I used to sleep in a supply closet, she says, not because I was lazy, but because I had nowhere else to dream. And if you're hearing this now, wondering where you belong, thinking maybe the world moves too fast and forgets people like you, trust me, you're not invisible. Light finds us, even in the darkest corners. Sometimes hope's just waiting, quiet, patient, right where you thought you lost it. So how do you think? Is compassion enough to change a life? Or does the world still belong to the ones who look away? I'd love to hear your story, your thoughts on justice and kindness, and all the mess in between. Share them below, because sometimes telling the story is the first step toward changing it.